Once more, a very good afternoon to sir and to all the students. This is once more a great opportunity for me to interact with all of you. The presentation that I will be giving today is based on the direct method. Now, this is another technique of teaching English as a second language to students. Now, the origin of this method, of the direct method. So in second slide 2, the origin of this method can be traced back to the 19th century to a book called Art of Teaching and Learning of Languages, which was written by Francois Guin in 1880. Now, according to this book, foreign language could be taught using a series of simple events. Now, this is important, that language is something which we primarily use in our everyday life, to interact with people in our everyday life. So, using a series of simple day-to-day events, real situations, language could be taught. This was what direct method prescribed. Now, the teacher has to, in the foreign language, the direct method suggests, recommends that the target language should be used directly. So, to describe each event, each day-to-day event or real life-like situations, the teacher must use foreign language directly. And he should also give reading and writing lessons to the students, to the learners in the target language. Now, the stress in this method is on using full sentences rather than using words and phrases. You can recall that in the grammar translation method that on which I presented last day, I had said that the stress was on words and phrases. Students were asked to memorize the meanings of words and their phrases. But here, the importance or the emphasis was given on using of full sentences. So the direct method, in the third slide, you will see I have written in slide 3, there is no use of translation technique. In grammar translation method, the mother tongue was used indiscriminately to help the student understand the meanings of words and concepts. But here method, there is no use of any translation technique. Whatever communication occurred between the students and the teacher, it occurs mainly through the target language, directly through the target language. Now, this method was popular in Germany rather than in France, though French. Now, in early 20th century, find that an English philologist, he modified and improved this direct method. Now, the main aim of this method is to make the learner think in the target language. If we can think in the target language, then can we only speak in that language. So the stress was on the ability of the learner to think in the target language. And if he in the target language, he will be able to communicate with the language in real life situations. This was the main objective of the direct method. Now, as we see that there is a difference with the grammar translation method, because the grammar translation method lays stress on the use of literary language, on writing, on the development of writing skills, on reading skills. But here the emphasis is on the ability to communicate, on the power, to develop the power of speaking. So there is a fundamental difference between the translation method and the direct method. Now, in the next slide, I have outlined some of the principles of the direct method. Now, the process involved forming of associations. Now, this is very important. How do we learn language? How do you remember words and their meanings? Because you know, the word chair, immediately if we use the word chair, immediately the concept of chair comes into our mind. So it is through association of words with concepts that we remember the meaning. So this process, the direct process, the direct method involves this linking of association, linking of words, linking of speech, linking of words with concepts and objects, linking of words of speech with action. And in order to do so, the teacher can use realia, pictures, or he can even make use of pantomime. So in order to make the concepts of the meanings clear, he can use different objects, pictures, he can even act in the class, he can do all sorts of things. So this is how meaning was demonstrated. So in the grammar translation method, meanings of words remain abstract concepts. Students have to learn through the use of dictionaries. But here, the stress is laid on the association of meaning with real life objects and actions. But this association has to be direct, concrete, and also it has to be definite. Sorry, excuse me. It has to be direct, concrete, and definite. Now, repetition, in order to, since the learner is learning the language for the first time, since the learner is learning the language for the first time, therefore, it will not be easy for him to remember the words and their meanings directly. To remember the words and their meanings directly. So what the teacher has to do is to repeat. He has to take recourse to repetition. So of words, and at the same time, the concepts that they denote becomes an essential part of the direct method in order to associate meanings with words and concepts. Now, this method depends greatly on the learner. The learner in the translation method, grammar translation method, remained a passive, almost a passive learner. But here, the learner has to be motivated, because it is believed that if the learner finds interest in learning, then he will be able to learn the target language. And the grammar is taught inductively. It means that no rules or definitions of grammatical rules or definitions were given to the students or the learners directly. Sentences were given, and the student has to figure out the rules, the grammatical rules applied in this sentence. So stress was more given on self-learning. And as I said, there is no memorization of words, no memorization of words, word list, or concepts. And the role of the teacher, unlike the grammar translation method, becomes very important. The teacher almost becomes like a partner to the student. So in the grammar translation method, the role of the teacher was very easy. He just used he just translated words and meanings, and he depended on the text in order to make the student learn the target language. But here the importance of the role of the teacher is of paramount importance, because the teacher has to make use of real life situations. He has to make use of pictures. He has to act. He has to be proactive in order to make the student learn the language. Now, in my next slide, I have presented to you the exercises that were given to the students to make them learn the target language. Now, first is the reading. Reading was given too much of importance, because through reading, the students can master the exact pronunciation of words. The students to read aloud. Now, grammar language, the target language, was also taught through question-answer exercises. For example, the teacher can come to and ask the students, what is the time? So in real life situations, you asking some practical questions, and in this way, the teacher can help the student learn the target language. And initially, that student can respond in yes or no, but gradually, with the help, as the teacher makes use of repetition of same words and phrases, he will be able to understand the language. Moreover, another important thing is to be noted here, that the questions that were asked had a coherence, must have a coherence. That means that so that the student can be able to predict the language, predict the words and the phrases, predict the meanings of words and the phrases that the teacher is trying to teach. So in this way, through question and answer exercise, the target language is taught to the students. Now, students were asked to self-make. The students, it is quite natural that students would make errors, but stress was given on self-correction. Why? Because rules were not memorized. The students were asked to understand, comprehend the rules. Emphasis was given on comprehension of rules, or the use of rules. So the self-correction by students was given importance. Now, language was mainly taught, as you can understand, through conversation practice. And this conversation mainly dealt with real life situation, not only with the text, with what is given in the text, but on the current events, on situations, current situations. For example, today there is a prediction that a thunderstorm, that a super cyclone is going to come. So conversation can begin with the student by the teacher on this topic of super cyclone. So in this way, that through conversation and interaction, target language can be learned. Now, often the teacher used to present sentences, but he must not complete the sentences. So there may be fill in the blanks exercises. So in this way, the imaginative ability of the student can also develop. So the student can also think, because the stress is laid on thinking, as I said, on the power of thinking, because until and unless the student thinks, he will not be able to use the language. Dictation of passages, dictation of some extracts was also given by the teacher in order to help the learn the spellings and the word meanings, and in order to find whether he can understand the language. So the students used to learn the language. Map drawing and paragraph writing, as far as writing skills and also on paragraph. So the stress is laid on the target use of the target language, not on the demonstration of their knowledge about the target language, because language is primarily something which we should use. Unless and until we can readily use the language, language has no value. So it is not important that we demonstrate, while using language, we demonstrate our knowledge of the language. It is more important that we can express our thoughts and emotions and feelings through the language. So that is more important, and stress was given on this aspect of the language learning. Now, Sweet divided, in my next slide, I have shown learning of target language into 5 stages. First is where the pronouns and sentences the students were asked to master thoroughly. The teacher can, through conversation, through reading, the students were asked to note the pronunciation, and in this way, through memorization of these words and sentences, the students can learn pronunciation. Grammatical categories, the second stage is called the grammatical stage, where the grammatical categories in the text were identified and taught. Grammar lessons were graded from easy to difficult. Idiomatic and lexical stage. Lexical means the everyday use of the language. We often use idioms, so words and phrases. So idioms in the text were taught. The fourth stage is the literary stage, where graded texts from contemporary literature were studied. And the fifth stage is the archaic stage, where older literature were taught in the class, with stress on its lexical and syntactical items. Now, syntax, as I said, that stress was given on the syntax, not on words in this language. That's all from me for today. I hope you have understood my lecture, and if you have any, welcome to ask me now.
Actually, this
thank you.
Direct method started as a kind of a reaction towards the grammar translation method. This grammar translation method was not producing results. We had all the rules and everything was in place, but then the results were not produced. At the application stage, people couldn't speak, people couldn't really write. So, as a reaction, people started talking of the direct method. That is, teaching the target language through that language itself.
Yeah.
Now, that is kind of they try to give a kind of an environment for learning a language, so that people could easily speak, easily read and write, as they would have done in their mother tongue. But the problem here was to get that many people who could speak English or their target language as a mother tongue, or almost near target language fluency, was really difficult. And a country like India, it was more so, because it was difficult to get that many people really. So, yeah, please.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sir, do you think that this direct method is suitable for teaching English as a second language?
Yeah, actually, we'll be coming to that as we proceed towards this communicative approach and the blending approach and the blended approach and the task-based approach and so many other things. So there we'll be in a better position to discuss all this because it is not the best possible method, but
Yes,
method is
yes.
not most important because once we have a blended approach, then we can talk of a situation where you may need to speak a bit of mother tongue at times.
Mhm.
So, otherwise, there could be a lot of problems as we have seen. Because in a direct method, suppose if you remember that poem, the six blind men and the elephant,
Mhm.
people who had never seen an elephant,
Elephant. Yeah.
so like they try to perceive their feelings by touching the elephant from different sides. So all
Mhm.
had all different kind of a result. Someone thought it's like a pillar, someone thought it's a kind of wall, someone thought it's a kind of a fan, someone is a rope and snake and all sorts of things. So it's going to end up like this.
Mhm.
So there are times where we may need to speak a bit of, use a bit of mother tongue or the first language, whichever is easier for them. That we may need. But more important is the approach and the technique. This is just the method because we've got two methods.
Mhm.
Amortization method and the direct method.
Direct method.
So that is fine,
Mhm.
but problem is elsewhere. And then again, like to speak to them, once there is a teacher who is able to speak in target language like fluency, that could be really difficult at places.
Difficult. Mhm.
So there may be a position where you may need to come down to that level of the children to speak to them. That we have ourselves faced when our trainees they go to different schools. They face this problem. Even if you show a thing, because here you have to make a kind of a direct connection with the object and show them. So which may be always not very possible. Suppose when we talk of the abstract things, we have the abstract nouns. It's very difficult. So up to a certain level, it may be possible, but then again, it may be difficult unless
Mhm.
they're really prepared. So those problems are definitely there.
Mhm.
Thanks. That was a nice presentation. I mean,
Sir, actually, when I was pursuing B.Ed, I had a talk with one of my teachers regarding this direct method, and I tried to outline to him the problems that the direct method, uh, uh, teaching through direct method can have. But the teacher told me that suppose you go to a place to give relief, to a place which has been struck by, say, cyclone or earthquake, natural disaster, and you are there to give relief, but you find that those to whom you are going to give relief, they do not understand your language. They are speaking, for example, in Urdu. So then how can you communicate? Because unless and until you communicate,
yeah,
they will not be able to accept your relief. So there you will be able to communicate. Somehow or the other, you will communicate because the situation demands that you communicate
yeah,
with them.
yeah,
So there you will use your gestures, your body language,
yes,
anything.
yeah.
So he said that direct method can be used if in a situation where there is uh, a, a problem, where both the student and the learner are facing a problem, a challenge, there we can use direct method. We have to use the direct method.
Suppose when Columbus went to America,
Yes, sir.
what language do you think he
Very,
spoke?
yes, yes, yes.
That is what he spoke in a kind of a broken kind of a language.
Mhm.
So that is important. That pidgin, we call it pidgin.
Pidgin language, yes, yes, yes.
Very
Pidgin English in India also.
pidgin. So suppose
Mhm.
when Marco Polo came to China, he must have spoken in some pidgin.
Mhm.
And pidgin, when it becomes the first language, when it becomes the mother tongue of some people, it becomes Creole. So that becomes a language in itself by then. So in such a case, also today there will be a big problem in South Bengal. And if you really can't speak that language,
Yes.
you have to use some gestures or some kind of a broken language. Because if you once you are that side, you have seen that. So I've tried from Digha, we had gone towards Odisha that side. People speak a kind of a Bengali which is more like Oriya, or they speak Oriya,
Yes.
which sounds more like Bengali.
Mm-hmm.
So a kind of a dialectical. There's a border. That border is more important. See, the border, you have a kind of a different kind of a language. So those things are there very much. So when we go and teach there, maybe so many other things may come up.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you come back the next day?
Yes, sir. With another method.
What's the suggestion from the others? Can we have Professor Ghosh once again? Hello. What about others?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Then when can we have the next class? Next Tuesday? Next Monday? Can we have it next Monday, or you want to have it on Friday?
Friday.
Your choice.
Okay.
Would you like to have it on Friday or Monday? Yes? Someone? Some opinion? Because normally it would have been on Monday. So if you want it on Monday, I can have it on Monday.
Okay, sir, Monday.
Monday then, yeah. Okay, then let's meet on Monday, same time. Sankha, let's meet on Monday then.
Okay, sir. I hope students are able to, I can communicate with the students at least.
Yeah. We are not reacting.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Yes.
don't like your presentation.
That's why I am a little apprehensive.
Okay, so this will be up on YouTube once again. So I'll give you the link. This
Okay, sir.
presentation and this presentation of Professor Ghosh. Okay, who's this next after Dipankar?
Madhuvanti, I think.
Monday, who is presenting? Who is presenting on Monday?
So I think Madhuvanti.
Madhuvanti. Okay, Madhuvanti. Madhuvanti, are you there? Madhuvanti? So get ready on Monday. Okay, Madhuvanti next day, then Sagorika, Sumodini. Okay. Okay, then bye.
Bye, sir.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Madhuvanti.
Excuse me, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, maybe Devjani will be next day.
Yes, Devjani is there. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Just ask her. Today she's not here. Ask her, or else you do it on Monday. Okay, then bye.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.